All right, time for the crossover. JD in for Steiny. Daryl the Guru Johnson. There's some mics coming on.
Hi, JD.
Am I at the improv or not stepping the game?
Come on.
Everybody in Fuego, as old Dan Patrick would say.
I'm just going to let me start out.
Yeah, let's go.
JD,
I need a minute.
JD, congratulations. You got your guy fired.
On? Oh.
Yeah.
He just took his victory lap early.
straight out.
No,
just
I need the victory lap. I need a part 2. And congrats to Mark Willard, who quietly the MVQ, the most valuable questioner today at the Farhan
You made it out there,
Extravaganza.
Will?
I don't know if I accept your nomination. I'd like to.
You already got the award. You don't have to accept
really?
it. You can have somebody accept in place of Mark Willard.
I'll accept it. Why not?
You were great today. You were
Thank you.
fantastic.
Was he in
Thank
the
you.
dugout, Will?
Yeah, he's in the
Thanks.
dugout.
I don't
He's in the
get
dugout,
that.
and it was a, I guess, like Dibs referred to it earlier as a packed house. I don't know how you pack that house because it's a dugout, so it's a little bit informal. But it was.
Were you on the bench?
I did not sit down.
Okay.
No.
random.
And Killian was right next to me, and she because she refers to herself as height challenged. I will say this on the air. Ann needed the bench.
I love it.
Right? So she Ann was
gentleman.
standing on the bench.
Are you saying mouse in the house?
Ann was standing on the bench, and I was right next to her. And no, but it was probably a good, solid 20 to 25 people who never wanted to stop asking questions. Like this was actually a press availability where the Giants called the fight. Like not that it was that like it wasn't that it was that contentious or anything, but usually in situations like that, it just comes to a close.
Yeah.
And everyone just kind of like, all right, you guys good? Okay, we're good. And somebody leaves.
Everybody had one more.
The Giants were like,
Totally.
3 more, 2 more, 1 more. All right, done. And Farhan's, no, I got 1 more from John Shea. And then, like they had to call
Johnny
it because
Shea.
everybody
What did
wanted.
you learn? What can you tell her? Like some of what you asked.
Headlines. Well, I asked a bunch of stuff.
He was great.
I asked why. I did, I heard you earlier say, why didn't, like, last week come up? And it did. I asked him. I said, now, the perception
To finish the season, Jay.
Well, the perception is out there that you and Gabe Kapler were together on this.
Yeah.
And so why did this fall on him? And the answer, I mean, to paraphrase it, was kind of just like, when things don't go well, that's the way it goes. That's who gets fired. Was essentially, now I think there's more to it than that. I very, very, very firmly believe.
I feel that, though.
I think that the fans are out there going, should have been Farhan also. And what I'm saying is there were clubhouse dynamics related to Gabe, I believe, that were more a part of this decision than just, hey, we weren't good, so the manager gets fired.
Pasoy on line 1.
Yeah, few other headlines. Few other headlines. He absolutely stated that Marco Luciano will probably start the year as the starting shortstop next year.
Wow.
Okay. Let's hope he's good enough to back that up on October 3rd.
Yeah,
Okay.
Brandon Crawford's time with the Giants is done,
Wow.
whether Brandon retires or not.
They've been waiting for that one.
He didn't say that out loud, but what he said is obviously the starting shortstop job is Marco's. And then as far as whether Brandon could be like a 3-day-a-week utility guy, Farhan called that a, quote, tough fit. Tough
So
fit.
that's a no.
So Brandon,
That's a hard no.
Brandon's time with the Giants is done. I'd also say, though,
Talk about the rotation.
said they would not be looking to add starting pitching depth. If there's a top of the rotation addition to make, yes, but the depth pieces are going to be names you know. Whether it's Manaya, DeSclafani.
Stuck with?
No, not Wood.
Okay.
He's a free agent.
All right.
Stripling,
He's a free agent.
stuck with?
Stripling.
Manaya.
is back.
That's all of his
But-
bad
but-
signings
Possibly,
that they
yes.
are still stuck with.
Get him, JD.
Webb, Cobb. I would imagine Harrison obviously jumps in.
He didn't name Harrison, but he
didn't.
named younger
Yeah.
guys.
And
who
Harrison,
pitched
let's
late
be
in the
honest,
year.
had one good start.
Jay, one
great
I'm
start.
comfortable saying that. You're
He had
right.
one
Well,
great start.
Well, the
what's he
last
had?
start of the year was a
5?
no-hitter through 5 innings.
What do you have,
but
5 starts?
Yeah, and the fastball wasn't being thrown like
Yeah,
it was the first
He
time.
had a no-hitter going in the last
I'm
game
just
of the
saying
year.
he ain't a known commodity going into
not
next
a,
year.
not a known
That's
commodity.
my only point.
But I'm
I
not
mean,
moving on from people who haven't had their
All right.
23rd or 24th birthday. by any stretch.
You got to give up somebody to bring in all these new players that are going to make them better.
Well, I mean, that's mostly obviously going to be on the offensive side of the ball, but he also said, look, 15 up to 20 players on this roster will be people who are already on it. And I know that sounds awful, but it's like how many, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to have 18 new players.
So your dream lineup is it ain't dead, but the Sotos and the Bellingers.
I don't think any of that's. I don't think any of that's off the table.
All right, okay. They're trying to go after hitters.
Now, he was asked, how are they now compared to when he started 5 years ago?
Oh, I can't wait for this.
One of the things he pointed to was the farm system. So I followed up and I said, if the farm system is in so much better shape, what is your willingness now to use some of those assets to go get established players?
Great question.
His answer was very, very high.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Which we just talked about.
Very, very high on the table for sure.
Yeah.
So
we just talked about the fact that, like, hey, he's probably going to trade a few of these names for guys that are proven.
I think he's going to try like hell.
And if it doesn't work, I'm getting fired anyway. Because no matter what happens, it has to work.
And they asked him about his contract status, and he admitted that it's a 1-year deal.
Yep, that was Bonte.
Oh, wow.
Bonte asked him about that.
Did he ask him?
We just said this is not a topic. It's not a topic for the Giants right now. No one's talking extension. No one's talking firing. He's going into the last year of his deal, and that's put on the shelf over here.
Arsenio Hall, he's got to get busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I had to give you a headline that fans are not going to love, Farhan really somewhat repeatedly refused to divorce himself from analytics.
And
in other words,
but why would he?
That's not surprising. It's not to say we're going to keep doing it the same way, but he absolutely reserved the right, and he kind of said whoever the new manager is. It's like if the new manager's here, and on a Tuesday in July, he thinks that an opener is the right way to win the game that day, then we're doing it. That doesn't mean I'm also not telling you we're going to do 35 opener games again next year.
Well, 32 this year, I think, right?
Something like that.
He talked about how
it's a full year of a start.
That's one turn, yeah. And he actually did mention that the record with openers was actually quite good.
Yeah.
It was better than it was when they didn't have openers. So
it's fine.
Gosh, any other sort of headlines that came out?
You asked him about
the 1-year deal.
Manager.
Wow.
You asked him about his openness to hire a first-time manager,
a rookie manager, and
which I thought was a great question,
well,
partner.
Thank you, Dibs. He
crushing on my partner all day.
I was asking that with openness, but also I had a specific thought in mind.
You believe in Stephen Vogt.
I do believe in Stephen Vogt, and I wanted to know if his answer would basically sort of confirm or deny or remove someone like Vogt from the conversation, and he did not. He said we would probably interview at least a couple candidates who have not managed before.
Which, to me, makes complete sense because there are probably double digits candidates that have no experience that could be better than the last guy.
One reason it's
why would
interesting.
you rule that out? Victory lap coming.
But one reason that's interesting is, and I don't know how many of you remember this.
I do. I know where you're going.
5 years ago, he was asked specifically about hiring someone like Gabe Kapler who had just failed. And he specifically pointed to, another data point, our research shows that guys who are in their second try have learned a lot of lessons, and therefore that learning turns into success in their second try. So I wanted to know if that was firm, like it's got to be someone who's at least on their second try.
That was the tipping point to where it looked like, oh my God, he actually is going to hire Gabe Kapler.
Yeah.
Back then. Because, again, he couldn't decipher the difference between Gabe Kapler and Bob Melvin or Bruce Bochy as far as who's holding that number up.
Speaking of Melvin, I'm reading as much as I can in San Diego to see which way this one goes.
Him and Peller, they hate each other.
Preller, but it still feels like this could go either way.
Like he could stay.
He could.
And that's one of those, I got talent if I stay. Like this could be different next year. We could win.
Would he leave that roster, or would management go, is this the right time to let him go?
Yeah.
Because he's going to end up on our division rival if we do.
Exactly. And I
pointed
said that
out.
to Goo. I said, there's no way in hell
that.
if I'm the Padres that I'm letting him go to the Giants. And if that means I keep him another year and it all blows up and people get fired next year, then so be it. I would. So if I'm them, he ain't getting here.
The other thing he said about the manager that I found interesting is that he said that he wants someone who will be a good recruiter. And when I heard that,
I thought he was the recruiter.
well, so this immediately to me, now I'm reading between the lines here, but go back to when I said I firmly believe that the dismissal of Gabe Kapler has some things that we don't know behind them. I read that statement, and again, this is me just reading. I read the statement of we need a good recruiter to a certain degree means that the manager we had was somewhat of a detractor to previous free agents.
Not hard to believe.
Yeah. I do.
I went to Buster Posey when you
zero
said
to
that.
the table.
Not that I'm just saying he would have the ability to recruit.
Well, and he has said that he will. He's going to be a part of that for sure.
Man.
But and that's another, to me, kind of a point in favor of someone like Stephen Vogt. If you want a great recruiter, that's probably going to be someone on the younger side. It's going to be someone who still is friends and colleagues who are still playing in the game today. Do you know what I mean? The old school managerial types, like even take Bochy, who we love.
Yeah.
Would you consider him a great recruiter? I don't
His
know.
resume is.
His resume
He wouldn't be a
is.
I don't think.
No, definitely not a
Yeah.
detractor. But is he somebody?
That's a 4.
Come to San Francisco. I vote to me someone like that. That's someone who could really recruit.
He just played. Let me ask you two this because real quick, I know JD. I'm asking you the truth, Serum. When it was announced that Kapler was the manager, I didn't know you then. I knew who you were. Were you in or out on Kapler? And I can't remember where you were at when it was announced he was going to. Were you like, what the hell are they doing?
I was a little bit flummoxed that would be the hire based on what he had done in Philadelphia and all of the controversy down in L.A. And then he came in and won 107. It's like, okay, Kapler's the guy. He's new school. Let's go.
I dismissed the stuff in L.A. because I didn't find it to be necessarily definitive or relevant.
But it got kind of heavy out
here.
here.
What I mean? That was an organizational wide issue, not a Gabe Kapler issue.
Right.
And Gabe was involved in all of that. To what level? There's still mystery. Yeah. And so I didn't really look at it as in or out because, his record was 0-0. When Bruce Bochy was hired, people were like, retread? What are we doing with a retread?
Who failed?
And now he's going to go to the Hall of Fame, and there are 3 rings. So no matter who they hire, I can already tell you what my opinion is going to be, and you're not going to love it. My opinion is going to be, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what he does.
Even if it's Vogt.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to get too hot and bothered, right, over hiring. I mean, yeah. They're going to hire a baseball person.
They're going to hire a better manager than they had before.
Because you were out on him.
Almost by default.
Yeah.
Well,
and for the
they're
record,
going to hire they're going to hire the opposite. The pendulum swings in the other direction.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean,
Right.
if it's somebody that brings anything to the table tangible would be, I mean, I think as far as Stephen Vogt goes, as you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. JD and Goo and Willard and Dibs. As far as Stephen Vogt goes, I put it out there a year ago, and this is when we knew Kapler was going to be back. I'd hire Stephen Vogt today, meaning October, I think it was 5th, 2022, to be the manager of the Giants. I think he'd be a great fit. Melvin would obviously be tremendous. I don't think the Padres are going to let that happen. They shouldn't let that happen. Maybe they do. Yeah. Melvin would be at the top of the list. Vogt would be number 2. After that, it gets a little bit murkier, but kind of along the lines of your thinking, coupled with my thoughts, you can't really do Will Venable. You could.
What about Melvin if they ask him?
He'd be number 1 on my list.
Yeah.
But Will Venable, Mark DeRosa, Ron Wotus, Joe Espada,
Ecker,
Donnie Ecker,
right.
Any of these guys are going to be better than what they had in my mind. So, and that's not being dismissive of any of them. I just think they're all, to their core, more impressive than Gabe Kapler.
Well, the one thing they need more than anything else is accountability in the clubhouse based on what we heard over the past 2 weeks and the way they failed the last 2 months. You need to have somebody who can hold these professionals accountable for their failure. And when things were going south this year, they kept going south, and it doesn't seem like there was anybody who could step in and right the ship.
It's just kind of wild because Gabe's whole thing is being all buttoned up and prepared, and Farhan essentially has subtly pointed over the last week to a lack of preparation. And what happens, I feel like, is Gabe felt like he was prepared, but some of the players were not preparing at the highest level, and he allows them to police themselves. And
that's
so
what got you.
And there you go. So, like somebody,
and when you win, nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Right.
But when your calling card is preparation, and some of your players feel unprepared,
and you lead the league in errors.
And my point, and again, this is me coming from where I'm coming from on it. I think there was a phony. Like, I think Gabe knew how to talk like a guy that sounded really prepared, and I think that's where. Like, I don't think Gabe was as prepared. I'm not saying the players weren't. Well, but I never thought Kapler was as prepared as
I do think there's two different things here. So, is he prepared? Yes, he was very prepared in terms of the game plan and what they wanted to do. But
yes, because that was given to him.
But are the people prepared? And that's where true leadership and that's where true management comes from, especially in Major League Baseball. And if you're going to have a roster that is all 25 guys be ready to go every single day, then you need to have communication, you need to have role definition, you need to have all these things that maybe he was not so good at. You need to have somebody to be able to go in the clubhouse every day and say, all right, this is what we're doing. This is your role today.
Man.
This is where we're at. Be ready for this, be ready for that. And if you have professional players who don't know what they're supposed to do or don't feel confident doing what you're asking them to do, then forget the analytics because it still comes down to human beings.
And there was the belief that he was a better communicator than I think he ended up being. Like, I think that was kind of what was sold, was that he was going to tell these guys that he was going to be great at explaining it to the media and thus the fans, and he was also going to be good at a communication guy to the players. Like, this is why your role is going to be platoon, or this is why you're going to be not a starter, and we're going to go with an open. And to me, when that stuff when it worked, he didn't have to explain it because he could just, hey, it's working. When it didn't work, he couldn't explain it, and that's where he lost everything.
Well, and you literally had players complaining about the lack of communication in the clubhouse, saying, I was told that I was going to pitch on Monday
on your guys'
and be activated, and then I'm not.
Never forget it.
Right, the phantom IL stint that Ross Stripling brought up. So communication, man, is such a tricky word because you see people like Farhan and Gabe, and it's like, oh, well, they're excellent communicators. Well, not necessarily. They can talk, but that's not necessarily being an effective communicator. And I still have questions there, more so about Gabe than Farhan. But, Dibs, I feel like you've said this a number of times that these are guys who are examples of talking a lot without saying anything. And you even, Gabe, like, yes, he speaks in an interesting way. He says unique stuff sometimes, but is he getting his message across?
Right.
Farhan was asked about the team's brand today, and his answer was minutes long and talked about doing all of the little things the right way and adding up to a very, very high sort of total. And I'm like,
that's a miscalculation.
That's not a slogan. And I know that Farhan's not a slogan guy, but you know what I mean? Like, this organization needs to find a different way to communicate with its fan base.
To me, that's
a problem right now.
That goes back to the 2021 year where they had a lot of success, and I think that team was some guys that have been here, some older guys that have been here. But I remember Farhan, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, "Hey, if we win, it was along the lines. If we win, like, fans are going to be thrilled, and it doesn't matter who the names are. Like Lamont, people are going to love Lamont Wade, and people are going to love." And I remember thinking, that ain't that.
Well,
and it's nothing against Lamont Wade,
of course. Let me ask you guys this though,
but the fans here want to know, like, they want Buster Posey.
They do.
At a minimum. They want, They want Ohtani at a maximum.
Right, but this team outside of Barry Bonds and in its winning years has never had Ohtani, and Buster was not Ohtani. Buster's a great...
But they've always wanted that.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason that the last regime didn't, like, it because this came up in the Bonds era. Why can't you get another star? Why can't you get from Vlad Guerrero to, like, the fans wanted, and then they...
Well, you had one with Jeff Kent.
But then they started winning.
But did you? See, that's kind of the point.
He was
won
a
an MVP. But is he a star? Like the anatomy of a star is fascinating to me on this, and I think this is maybe the question that the organization should sit back and ask itself this offseason, because Farhan was asked this exact thing today, and he did not divorce himself from it. He said, we have always conducted ourselves under the idea that if you win, the fans will come and be interested. And he goes, and we largely still believe that to be true.
That is a red flag.
Well, okay, in 2021, were you entertained?
Sure.
I was entertained from the standpoint of shock. How long can this keep continuing? You guys are playing your ass off, but entertained?
It wasn't real, and everybody knew it wasn't real.
I was waiting for the other shoe to drop.
But, I mean, answer the question however you want.
I'm going to say no.
His point is...
And the last 2 years proved it wasn't real.
And there you go.
Okay, but...
Get us a star.
His point is, if we win, you'll be entertained. The fan base's point is, you're boring, even kind of when you are winning.
We want to be attached.
This year is the
We want
great
to be
example.
attached.
I mean, it does fall into this question. Like, okay, would you rather be the 2021 Giants or the 2023 Padres?
And Giants fans would rather be the 2023 Padres.
And who would answer the 2021?
Without a doubt.
Oh, my
Without
God, Willard. Who would want to be the 2021 Giants?
Without a doubt.
You would rather miss the playoffs with high-priced stars than make the playoffs with middling players.
Well, I guess I was calculating the next 2 years.
Because you don't
want
to wait till June to get excited about your team because, oh my God, they're 60
running back. They got action.
They're 60 and 30.
Yeah,
that's where I disagree with you, though.
I'm surprised.
Talent is not
It's an entertainment product, and the Padres are more entertaining even at 82
and the Padres
sold out. Look at the attendance in 2021.
One at a time.
Man, you answered your own question.
Well, no, I didn't, because if you went to San Diego right now, they're furious.
They sold out 60
and they
games.
Should be.
Great. They sold out.
Yeah.
The fan base is furious.
But if we run it back, you might get what you want. Everybody relax.
Maybe.
We don't have nothing here but seeds hoping they blossom.
We're sitting here talking about taking their manager. They might fire the guy.
But there had to be a fall guy.
You've got sellouts and you've got wackadoodle City Connect jerseys. You are huge underachievers.
Okay, but you don't need to go close deals in Diego because you got the product.
No, that's
the Giants got to go find the product and get somebody to say yes.
But I no
multiple times.
The Padres do not have the product. They have a broken clubhouse and might get a very accomplished manager fired with a payroll that's paying 8 guys 9-figure deals.
Oh,
sign
me up, Willard.
I'm not disagreeing with you guys about the entertainment factor of this team. But if you want to put 2021 Giants up against 2023 Padres, there's no question what's a better product. The Padres were an absolute...
What attracted more fans?
Well, but that's... there's a one-sport town.
Sure, the Giants...
That's a one-sport town.
JD mentioned they sold out 60 games. The Giants in 2021, and I know we were coming out of the pandemic. I went to a bunch of those games.
That's not...
Attendance is not a fair mark, but if you look at radio ratings, TV ratings, they were nowhere. This team was not attractive to the audience.
You're not wrong, but comping the Padres it's just not the same.
Major League Baseball
for the 2
attendance,
reasons you just said.
I saw this yesterday. You may have seen this. Major League Baseball attendance is at a 30-year high.
Yeah.
This year was the highest since 1993. The Giants, I believe, this was going into the final weekend, are one of 4 teams
down to 4.
declined.
Wow.
This is accurate.
Yeah,
it's accurate.
And we all know why. That's not a shocker.
No doubt. But I guess
Farhan has a year to do a lot that I think is almost impossible.
Apparently not, because you guys don't care if he wins. You just want him to spend.
Well, that's how you win.
No, it's not. Look at the Mets and the Padres, Goo.
No, but listen.
Hold on. Are we asking him to win?
Chapter 2 or 3 of the Padres running it back with that talent
pool
that they have.
Go. I'm not going to get pinned here.
I feel like you're robbing them of that. We know what this is after 107.
I'm not arguing the boredom. But you actually just made Farhan's job way easier if that's your bar. If all you guys care about is fancy players who will win 82 times, that's easy. I could do that.
But Willard,
I can go.
You can't do that.
Yeah, I can. Because all I can do. I'll tell you what, Aaron Judge. I know you want $350 from the Yankees. We'll give you $550.
Okay. Didn't want to play for Gabe. But
he would have for $550.
But Willard,
that's all you guys are asking for. Apparently,
before you even play game 1 of the accomplishment of closing that deal.
Of course.
And the promise people feel collectively
of course.
that now this thing may work.
Listen to you, though. You want the promise. What would you say to Kyle Shanahan if that was the bar? The promise of a good roster that excites you preseason? Or do you need to bleeping win or else we're going to march? Like, that's all I'm saying here.
That's two different things.
Because they're winning, they're getting damn close.
81 baseball versus 8 football.
No, but
totally
if the 49ers had a fancy roster and we're 2-2 right now, we'd be furious. We'd be furious. My point is not that anybody's wrong about the excitement of the Giants. They've got a ton of work to do. But if all you're saying is the San Diego Padres were a wild success this year because you've heard of their players,
I would never.
They were a disaster.
No one said wild success.
Right. No,
you
but
asked,
how can
you
we?
asked if you would rather have the Padres this year
There you go.
or the Giants in 21, and all three of us said the Padres this year.
Okay, so let the Giants know they don't need to go to the playoffs then.
Because you
forget the playoffs.
You're not giving us the other part of that.
What's the other part?
They get to run it back in 24 with that same talent pool.
Exactly.
They get to run it back. You don't got to go ask anybody to dance. You're married. Okay. They got their stars.
So Farhan gets an extension then because you're giving him 2 to 3 more years to get that roster to the playoffs.
Well, you just said
there's
a 1 year. I don't think he has. If there's a 1 year thing, he don't got enough time to get what he needs.
He's had 5 years to do what the Padres were able to do, and he hasn't done it.
That's not true. The Padres have not achieved anything that the Giants have achieved.
They brought in stars. That's the point.
They made a league championship series.
Okay, great. They won one more playoff series than the Giants did.
And next year, when it starts, you would think the Padres with new management might have action.
Listen.
The Padres had a better year this year.
No, great.
And last year.
Right. That's incredible.
But that's just it. The Padres underachieved in 21, the year the Giants overachieved.
And
massively.
23.
And
it's not because of talent, though,
But then
Willard.
guess what happened? Nobody thought the Padres weren't going to be better last year.
What is
even
it
off
then?
of 21?
No, Goo. It's not because of talent.
Oh, there's no
then
doubt.
What is it?
It's the same thing that infected the clubhouse here. You had a bunch of me guys, and you didn't have a sheriff to put people in their place. And I think now the next manager will be tasked to do that, and somebody's head is going to roll. It may even be one trade. One of the players might not be there, and the message will be sent, okay, playtime is over. We got to go ball out.
Listen,
but we don't got to no want ads for talent.
Nobody's denying that the Giants need to be more interesting. No one's saying that. But you guys are shocking me today with this comp because Farhan does have a point. And if you guys want to be angry at the Giants to the point that you don't want to hear it, that his point is that winning leads to interest.
And how do you do that with talent?
Maybe.
And you haven't closed the deal.
He's not wrong, but you can't.
The Blue Jays are playing the Twins in the playoffs right now.
The Blue Jays got one of the nice lineup.
Name 4 players on the Twins. Go ahead.
Well,
go ahead. They're in the playoffs. Here we are. This is how you win.
Man.
You win with great players.
This is always the argument he goes to.
Name 4 Twins.
He always tries to play the roster argument.
Okay, it's kind of funny he got correct.
3 Twins.
What's my other guy in center field?
No, you don't have to answer that question.
No, but I want to. But
you don't have to answer that question.
He just got the ball.
Because I'm not allowed to play aggressive today.
You can play aggressive all you want, but this is your calling card. This is what you go to when you get cornered.
I'm not cornered.
You asked a question, and all 3 of us answered the same way, and you feel triggered by that.
I'm not triggered, and I'm not cornered. I am fully disagreeing.
Because we all think that the 2023 Padres are more interesting than the 2021 Giants.
Am I allowed to disagree with you?
You can disagree.
Great. Then I'm not triggered nor cornered.
But you always go to the name blank players card.
Because it's a good point, Dibs.
I don't think so.
I was told just now that amazing high-priced talent is what wins in sports. The Twins are on TV. You can't name a third player.
It's what's more interesting. It's not what wins. And we're just saying that the Padres are more interesting than the Giants.
And you're welcome to that opinion, and I don't share it.
Right.
I would much rather be in the playoffs than have people have heard of me.
Sure.
You got to win.
But it's one time in what now is a fluke season that it worked out, and you're kind of coming back to that, and that's fine. But it's what confidence level do you believe in the Padres next year more than you believe in the Giants next year?
Sure.
That's the point.
Oh my God.
Sure.
But that's
I don't want to believe in them. I don't want to believe in something. I want to have something tangible happen.
But that hasn't happened with the Giants.
And you're telling us right now without doing it, Willard, I don't even think you're aware of it. You're saying to us, everybody listening, that there's another avenue outside of adding talent that could equate to them winning. That's what has my head spinning.
Okay.
You win with talent.
How many examples do you want?
Give me one.
Okay, well, I just did. The Minnesota Twins.
I got my four.
They got
the
Carlos
Minnesota Twins, but if
and the 2021 Giants.
Okay.
Okay. Who else is in the playoffs this year out of the National League?
Who we got?
The Florida Marlins.
Atlanta.
Okay. Well, yes, Atlanta.
Okay.
How about the Arizona Diamondbacks?
Okay.
the
Loaded
Giants,
with
the
35
Giants,
How about the
home run hitters?
Astros? How about the Astros?
How about the Astros?
Okay.
But Giants fans would.
How about the
but no, I
Rays?
want to stop you at Diamondbacks. Giants fans would love to have homegrown athletes that run around and play good defense.
I'm not anti-talent, for God's sakes.
But
I'm asking if you guys would give Farhan a tiny bit of space, that he's not wrong,
All right.
that winning creates intrigue. More so than just
I'm
names.
not fighting that.
Okay, that's all I said. That's literally the only thing I said.
With
but
the
he
other.
But Farhan, and I think the Giants above Farhan miscalculated the fact that they could put any team that wins on the field, and it was going to. They
Who's arguing
completely
that?
miscalculated
No
that.
doubt about that.
Agreed.
Because you're in the minority. Like
Agreed.
you're just. I'm a fan. If my team wins, I love them.
Yeah.
Most fans are not
But
that
you're
way.
on record as saying this team
and
was
Giants
boring.
fans are especially not that way.
Who's defending this year's team? Not me.
No, God, right.
But my gosh, would I be more offended today if I were a Giants fan or a Padres fan? It's not even close. The Padres and Mets fans should be absolutely pitchfork laden. That's a joke what those teams did.
Padres missed the playoffs by one game.
Okay.
I
They blew
think they're in different
billions of
categories.
dollars.
Okay, but I'm gonna say this about the
I mean,
Mets.
they finished
it was
ahead
a
of the Giants by
debacle.
what, 2?
Willard,
Three.
I'll take what the Mets
One
did
game out
as
of
a
the
fan
playoffs.
all day. They closed deals and they saw somebody and they got him. It didn't work out, but they closed. Farhan is yet to close a deal. I'm just blown away at how you think. I'm asking you, what can change realistically for the Giants in a year adding talent?
All kinds of things can change till next year. When does sports look the exact same from year to year?
Closing the deal is a part of that.
When did I say I'm not for that? When did I say the roster
No, it's
doesn't
not
need to
about
change?
you being for it. It's can he do it?
I have no idea.
Now that he's on his what we think is ninth life.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out. What I'm trying to figure out is, are you just here for the glitz? Is everybody a bunch of Kardashian fans? Is that all we're doing now?
No, people want the bling.
Great.
And you want to be attached to players.
Yeah.
I think
that's wonderful. But does Farhan have a tiny point? Just a tiny point.
You know what, though? Maybe he does, but at this point, he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt.
That's
because
fine.
he's failed.
And that's stating the obvious, Will. You win, people are going to come, Willard, right? You win, people are coming.
Exactly.
And you know what? I'm sorry. We can go back now and revise history. I haven't been one to do this, but we can go back and revise history and say he chased Bochy off. And look what that's done.
Which
no,
he did.
Willard, for real,
just
come
go
on
back
now.
and revise it.
He didn't.
It's
do
the
that.
Belichick Brady thing.
Ownership did that, and I know the morning said it about 417 times today.
What is that?
that he chased Bochy
How
off.
could you not say?
Ownership chased Bochy the second they made the hire. That thing was over. Everybody knew that.
Well, he didn't want to be a part of it.
Which it's
Again,
fine.
I'm not even being.
You
I wasn't being serious.
You hire a new president of baseball ops. He's going to bring in his own guys, which is why I'm surprised to see that he gets on a 1-year deal. He gets to hire a new manager, and he did say today, and he mentioned Greg and Buster and Larry, which I thought was fascinating. Like on the board, I'm going to talk to Greg and Buster and Larry
Buster is
when
up.
I make my hire.
Wow. Yep.
Buster's all the way up.
And
he also said Logan. He also said Logan.
Yeah, he said whether or not
I
want to hear from Logan, I'm going to hear from Logan, which I thought was fascinating.
And Buster and Logan are two buzzwords in Farhan's mind of, if I mention them, Giants fans might like me because Giants fans like them.
But also, JD, honestly, to defend Farhan, he has to defer to that
100%.
mentality because they are the core of this team. Outside of Logan, and I was asking Mark this before the firing even happened, like, who do you look at in this clubhouse as the leader? And it's not Yaz. It's not Wilmer. Tyro called a players-only meeting. It's not any of the rookies.
You don't have
It's
one,
not
Dibs.
Jock and the Pusoy Dose.
Yeah.
it's not Lamont. You have no leader. So
he got fired. The supposed leader got fired.
If it's Logan and Buster, then so be it.
But when you build a team the way they built the team, they don't really
But I do think that he spoke to that today,
don't care about leadership
I
because
do
you're
think
just
that
trying
he
to.
spoke to that in saying that they do need to now bring in more long-term guys, and they need to change that part of it to where you can't just have guys in and out. And he did also say that they had the fewest number of pitchers appear on their roster than any other team in baseball this year.
If I were to be concerned about
I said
anything
that.
he talked about today, it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like he did, there were about probably 3 times where he sort of sounded like he was trying to convince people that this year's roster was better than you think, based on the data. We were a good offensive team in the first
Third
half
in
of the year.
ERA.
Yeah, we were third in ERA. We used the fewest number of pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. And
Facts.
it's like, of course, they're not facts. I don't know
The bottom
right
line
now,
is the bottom line.
Yeah, well, the right now is just not the right time to try to trumpet that because people are frustrated and the roster is not good enough, and that's all incredibly, incredibly clear. I just think he does walk out. To me, maybe this is just my way of fanning. He does walk out with a fair point when he says that. I will never, ever.
The winning brings that.
I will never root for people or contracts over winning. I would not. Of course, the answer is both. Of course, the Giants roster needs to change. Of course, they need more long-term, more money, more everything. They should. Like every time I go down there's another building that popped up that they own.
Yeah.
So of course they should do all those things. But to get to the end of a year like this and think that the Padres were more successful than the Giants or the Mets were more successful than the Giants, the Mets, my God. Like, that's gross to me when you have...
It's a disaster.
Yes. But they're going to trade their people.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I think he has at least 1 point there that, you win.
Okay.
If you win, you're interesting.
Padres ended the year 14-2.
Great.
Willard, I'm going to go football on you.
I mean,
They ended the year Sunday the same way the Giants did.
They ended the year, 3 games ahead of the Giants, and they ended the year pushing toward the playoffs.
Willard, his
and the
point
Giants
is they don't got to go do what the Giants are
matters.
looking for.
That
Their
matters.
Soto and their
Padres had a better year than the Giants.
It's
without
not
a
that the
doubt.
year was
drew
better.
more.
They got their
played
guys.
better.
They're
The
losing.
Padres had a
Guys,
better
you're all
year than the
talking at
Giants.
once. You're all talking at once. I disagree. Based on the
Okay,
money that they
okay.
spent, based on the expectations, if you actually want to go to the over-under in Vegas, tell me that the Padres had a better year than the Giants.
Yeah.
They won more games. They were more interesting. They were also a debacle.
They underperformed a lot
They
more.
underperformed.
They have better
They
players.
underperformed.
That's how
Of course they
Okay.
do.
But they literally had it. Like, they're not in the same category as the Mets and the Cardinals. The Padres literally had a better year than the Giants. Like, full stop.
Based on
Their record.
great. We would not be
that's a
happy.
fact.
Gabe Kapler is still fired if the Giants win 3 more games.
I hope so.
You either make the
I actually
playoffs.
am not so sure.
You either make the playoffs or there's a 0 next to your name. But the Giants and the Padres,
I'm gonna leave you
in
with
my
this.
mind, have the same year. They both missed.
By the way,
They both underperformed.
on the Farhan hinting at, the first half was this, and like there were still some things that he looked at that he really wanted to say, but he didn't want to fully say because it would start pissing people off. That was kind of the thing that I came back to, as far as we all assumed, and I think rightfully so, that it was Farhan and Gabe, and they were really in lockstep. I heard a lot when Gabe got fired of, well, Gabe did fine. Like, it wasn't his fault. And I'm not even going to argue that point. But the point that I brought back to people that said this is, you think Farhan looks at his team that he put together, that he does all the numbers with? Like, do you think Farhan looks at this team and thinks that Gabe got everything out of his baby that he put together with his numbers and his special sauce? Do you think Gabe? So I think there was a point in which Farhan says, you know what? Part of the reason I'm firing this guy, internal stuff, agree, but was also Farhan looks in the mirror and goes, this team should have won 87. And why didn't it? And he wouldn't admit this, but in his mind, he's thinking, because it can't be me, because it's the manager.
I agree with that.
So I think in that way, he did separate. Like, I think he liked Gabe. I think he was the only guy that would have hired Gabe. But I think when push came to shove, he was like, this team should have won 86. And if we had won 86, everybody would be getting extensions.
I won't mention the media member, but on the way in, one of the media members goes, I don't even really feel like I know what to ask today. And I said, well, I'd like to ask him why this landed on Gabe. And that media member
still
looks at me and goes,
Man.
well, because you can't fire yourself.
Man. And there it is.
On that note, Willard and Dibs are next.